The Colts need a new leader in the middle of their defense, and we've got just the one for you today as our Prospect Spotlight series continues. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I am your host, Jake Arthur, the Indianapolis Colts beat writer for Roundtable Sports. And today, after a little bit of a break, we have returned with our Prospect Spotlight series. The first couple weeks of free agency have calmed down a little bit, and now Zach and I are ready to kind of hit it with these prospects once again, bringing you several of them here over the next 4 or 5 weeks until the draft starts next April, on April 23rd. But today we're going to continue with what is still one of the most glaring needs on the Colts defense, and that is the Mike linebacker. So just like a week or two ago, it was anybody at linebacker the Colts needed. They then signed Akeem Davis-Gaither from the Cardinals, and then previously with the Cincinnati Bengals, he played with Lou Anarumo for the first 4 years of his career. We're penciling him in as the new starting will linebacker. That's just kind of what his skill set, when utilized best, fits. So the Colts still need somebody to directly replace Zaire Franklin as that Mike linebacker who calls the defense, the green dot, as we've been referring to it a lot lately, the guy that literally is the communicator from the coaches to the rest of the players on the field. And, you know, this is a very rich draft with linebackers, but when you are looking specifically for what the Colts need now at the Mike linebacker spot, there's, I don't want to say a select few, but like the pool of the really, really good players shrinks a bit. If you're throwing in will linebackers, there's a million guys I could tell you that the Colts could use. But today we're going with Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. He is about as good as it gets when it comes to what the Colts could get there. We're going to call it day two. We're going to specifically get into details in the second segment here. But he's about as good as it gets for the Colts to replace Zaire Franklin in this draft and get an early impact doing it. So let's just go through some background here on Rodriguez for you. Very interesting background, actually. So in 2021, as a true freshman, he got to the University of Virginia as an offensive player. He played quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end for them. He transferred after that season after some sporadic random use, obviously as just a general offensive weapon. Transferred to Texas Tech and played right away in 2022. Became a linebacker full-time and kind of worked into the rotation for the first couple years for himself before becoming a starter. But looking at these last 2 years since 2024, as a developed player who was ready to hit the field and contribute heavily, he, again, has now been a starter and now team captain since 2024. And the heartbeat of a really good Texas Tech defense that has several prospects on it. We already talked about one of them in this series, Romello Height, the edge defender. So in that time, over his career, Rodriguez has 317 tackles, including 25.5 for loss, 6 sacks, 13 forced fumbles, 5 fumbles recovered, 6 interceptions, 12 pass breakups, and 2 defensive touchdowns. So this guy is a stat sheet stuffer, affects the game in a multitude of ways. Was about as accomplished as you could possibly get, I guess, from a team perspective, but as well as individually. Texas Tech it's going to be hard pressed to think they'll ever like get to the national championship, but they were there in the mix near the end. I believe they were a playoff team, if I'm not mistaken. And then Rodriguez individually achieved just about everything. The Bronco Nagurski Award, Butkus Award, Lombardi Award, Chuck Bednarik Award. He was a unanimous All-American last year. The Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year and first team All Big 12 all last year in 2025. So very accomplished player. Let's talk about him specifically as a prospect now. He doesn't have elite size, 6'1", 231. He doesn't have the best like length in the world either. His arms are 30 inches, 30 and 7/8 inches, 9 1/4 hands. I know a lot of people don't care about that, but a lot of teams do. That factors into your length, and some teams don't think that players can be very successful or will be pretty limited without elite length. He's going to be 24 years old when the season begins in September. Now, on tape, like, there's nothing not to like. Like, you do see, like, he's not the biggest, lengthiest player, but he moves around really well. He's a very fluid player, but still at the same time, I think a lot of people questioned how he would test at the combine. But he actually passed that with flying colors. Ran a 4.57 in the 40, had a 38.5-inch vertical with a 10-foot-1 broad jump, and ran the 3-cone in 6.9 seconds. So concerns about this guy that everyone liked on tape athletically, he answered that, which I think pretty much locked him into the top 50, top 60 picks in this draft, because there was talk about this guy even being available into the third round, which I no longer think is going to be the case. When you look at him on film, you see the instincts and demeanor of a classic linebacker, which is really impressive to consider when you think back to just in 2021, he was an offensive player playing a bunch of different positions. He didn't even become a defensive player, let alone linebacker, until 2022, but he plays it with the mentality that he's been playing it since Pop Warner. The confidence in which he attacks the ball carrier and tracks the ball in the air, his instincts, knowing where things are going to go. He attacks the run, through the A gap, through the inside and out on the perimeter very, very well. Sniffs out screen passes very well. Basically, as strong as we know Zaire Franklin was in those areas, like in the box, tracking the ball from, just outside the tackles within all those splash plays that Zaire Franklin made. It's a lot of the stuff that litters Jacob Rodriguez's tape in a positive way. You see quite a bit of that. In coverage, I think we've all been wanting the Colts to land a linebacker that would be competent in coverage. You definitely see that with Rodriguez. He's very fluid, both laterally and turning upfield to go on like a wheel route, for example. Moves very well doing that. Smart player, never seems out of place. It's like he always knows exactly what he's looking at. You could tell that the guy prepares and watches plenty of film throughout the week. Like unrivaled ball skills when it comes to linebacker play. And again, that ever important green dot, calling the defense. Number one, the responsibility and trust from your coaches, but also the football IQ and wherewithal and smarts to know exactly what you're seeing, what your coaches want you to see, and then convey it to your teammates. That's very, very important. But let's talk about those ball skills again for a minute, because the Colts haven't had a linebacker with the ability to kind of change the game in that way since Shaq Leonard. Zaire Franklin did start to be a little better at it a couple years ago before kind of inexplicably falling off in that department in 2025. But when you have a guy that can force turnovers at the rate that Jacob Rodriguez does, it's so incredibly invaluable. It got Darius Leonard a $20 million per year contract extension with the Colts, because he had a lot of holes in his game, like just as a classic linebacker, but Leonard could do stuff that nobody else could, and that was take the ball away at an incomparable rate. And you kind of see that with Jacob Rodriguez as well. But I would say that Rodriguez has a lot of linebacker strengths that perhaps Leonard didn't. I think he gets off blocks a little bit better, disengages with those. And I think he recognizes things run versus pass a good bit better. I just think he has, like, Leonard had great instincts, but I think Rodriguez has better football IQ, if that makes sense at all. We can talk about that over the next 4 or 5 weeks until the draft comes. But here in a moment, we're going to talk about specifically with the Colts. When could they get him? What's the fit with the Colts? And, how does this all make sense? We'll put one and two together here in just a moment. The tournament is here. One of the best times of the year. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets. It's nonstop action from tip to final cut down. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a way to stay in the action all tournament long. Here's the best part. You get up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. You can mix it up however you want. Game picks, futures, or even same game parlays for bigger potential payouts. It's perfect for the tournament because every day there's something new, different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved as the bracket unfolds. So visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. Workplace chaos, deadlines are stacking up, the inbox is overflowing, and oh yeah, that one position that you still have to fill is sitting wide open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is the job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping that the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing the candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, and more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is the job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Plus, listeners of this show are going to get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status that it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Welcome to the 5-hour energy flavor draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like confetti craze, fruity rainbow, or cotton candy. There is something for everybody. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5-hour energy flavor draft, confetti craze. It's got a delicious blend of rich and buttery, freshly baked confetti cake, smooth vanilla frosting, and a sprinkle of sweetness in every single sip. With its smooth dessert-like taste profile and rich, indulgent sweetness from start to finish, it is an absolute lock. Plus, you guys have heard before, Fruity Rainbow was another one that I've mentioned that's a good contender. Gives me major Runts vibes, if you remember that candy from back in the day. Remember that 5-hour energy shots give you a boost with 0 sugar so you can be guilt-free. Find your new favorite flavor of 5-hour energy shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. We are discussing Texas Tech linebacker Jacob Rodriguez and how he is a perfect fit to fill the Colts vacancy at Mike linebacker, left behind when the Colts traded Zaire Franklin to the Green Bay Packers. So just on the face of it, the Colts need linebackers in general, whether they're Will linebacker or Mike linebacker. They did recently sign Akeem Davis-Gaither of the Cardinals, and previously before that, the Bengals, the Lou Anarumo connection as well. But that's a 1-year deal. And I think Davis-Gaither is a decent player, good player. Like, he should start for the Colts at will this year. But the Mike linebacker spot is really, really important, and they're going to need it. They don't really have anybody else there. Outside of Davis-Gaither, they've got Austin Najike, Jalen Carlisle, John Bullock, Joseph Vaughn, and Devin Verasuk as their linebackers. And Bullock, Vaughn, and Verasuk are new guys just this offseason who are futures deals players. So Vaughn was with the Colts last training camp, but obviously did not make it through to the regular season. So that kind of tells you what you need to know. Jalen Carlisle as well, someone who has not really had an impact in 2 years and has spent more time on the sidelines than actually on the field making plays. I know there's a lot of optimism for guys like Carlisle. I like the talent as well, but you kind of have to proceed and move forward as if they're not there, and that anything they can give you is kind of a bonus cherry on top. So again, Rodriguez with the Colts, when could they get him? Their first pick is up at 47, and I think that's probably about when they would get him, unless they even traded back if he was available, because I do think there's a good concentration of linebackers available in this draft that the Colts probably aren't going to go trade up for one, though they probably will have their choice of at least a few guys that they like, which may cause them to trade down a little bit from 47. But regardless, if they want a guy like him, I don't think they're going to be able to wait until the 3rd round and pick 78. It's probably going to need to be there in the 2nd round. Again, like I mentioned with Rodriguez, incredible film, all the accomplishments in the world individually and as a team, as far as it goes for Texas Tech, and any accomplishments they've had in recent years. This was certainly one of the best years they've had with Rodriguez. finishing 5th in the Heisman. You don't really see that from linebackers very often, but it kind of gives you an idea of the type of player you're working with here. So again, I mentioned specific types of players for the Colts fitting at Mike linebacker and who they might need. It's that specific green dot. So I kind of lump Rodriguez in with like Jake Golday, Josiah Trotter, Deontay Lawson. Those kind of guys you can get from like round 2 to 4, for the most part, probably round 2, 3. But you need those type of guys specifically. If you want to get a will linebacker later on, that's great. But if you need the instant impact of a starting Mike linebacker, that's kind of what you're looking at. So I think Rodriguez would fit in well with the Colts. Again, they have the vacancy, so he could probably step right in right away and play. I think, again, his instincts and just feel for the game, I think he'll quickly get on the field. I would like to maybe see him get a little more powerful, even though he's fluid enough of a mover to get in and out of creases and kind of get through the traffic without issue. But if he could add some bulk, a little bit of power, I think that would certainly help with acclimating to the NFL part of the game. Of course, playing in the Big 12, it doesn't take a lot to be the toughest guy on the field, at least historically. So yeah, I think if he just kind of added some bulk a little bit, some strength, he would fit in just fine. But athletically, just fine. He's fast, he's agile, as we saw, and he's explosive as well. Very confident in the way he clicks and closes on the ball. So I think it's a no-brainer if he's available to the Colts. They're inside the top 50. He is one of a few players I think would be like hard rubber stamp Colts players that they should go and go after. So that is it for today's episode of this Prospect Spotlight series. We're going to have more for those for you guys throughout the week. Thanks again for tuning in today to this bonus episode of Locked On Colts. We'll be back with you a little bit later. Zach and I are going to have a mock draft for you. Make sure you subscribe to our show so that you get all of the latest episodes. If you don't already, follow Locked On Colts or at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2 on social media. If you never miss an episode, then remember the Everydayer Club is built just for you. Get Locked On Colts audio ad-free, plus the members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedoncolts.supercast.com to join the club or follow the link in our show notes right now. And with that, thank you guys again for watching and listening, and you have a great day.